Welcome again. We have Shani here. What are we making today, Shani?
Ansi, we're making Sabich sandwich.
Sabich sandwich. What does Sabich mean?
So Sabich is an Arabic word. It means morning because this sandwich is typically eaten for breakfast.
A lot of vegetables though.
Yes, it's very good for you.
Okay, a vegetable breakfast sandwich. All right, let's get started.
Okay, I might take back on the healthy part because we are frying that eggplant, but
well, that's okay. What do we have? What are we using?
All right, so first we'll start with our vegetable platter here.
Okay.
We have our eggplant.
Okay.
Tomatoes.
Right on the vine.
Cucumber.
Okay.
And then we also have a lemon.
Okay.
Okay, and we're gonna go to our parsley. Fresh parsley, yes. And we have 2 hard-boiled eggs. I've already boiled them.
And peeled them.
And peeled them.
All the tough parts out of the way.
And we have our chickpeas. So you can either use a can of chickpeas or you can take dry ones and just soak them overnight. They're also known as garbanzo beans.
So this is what you've done here with
Yes,
water.
I soaked them overnight.
Okay.
And then we have here some olive oil.
Okay.
Okay. And then we have a clove of garlic.
Just 1 clove.
Just 1 clove.
Okay.
And then we have our spices. So we have pepper, we have cumin, and we have salt.
Okay.
And over on this side, we have some pita bread. This is what we're gonna use last to assemble the sandwich.
And as we've seen before, pita bread is kind of a staple in Mediterranean food, so it's nice to see that it's incorporated for breakfast, appetizer, whatever. They're always eating, and that's
Definitely.
good. Nice to see. So let's get started, right?
All right, so first thing we're gonna do is, can you hand me that eggplant?
Alrighty.
Okay, I'm gonna have you help me today, Ansi.
Okay, a lot of dicing.
Yes, that's what we have 2 knives here, 1 for you, 1 for me.
Got it.
So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna cut this eggplant, okay? I'm just gonna cut the top off. And the thing with cutting this eggplant is, we're not gonna cut it into rings like you would normally.
Okay.
With this sandwich, we're gonna cut it lengthwise, so we're gonna be cutting it down this way.
Alright, do we keep the skin on?
We're gonna take the skin off
Okay.
after we cut it.
Oh, after.
So
Okay.
the reason we cut our eggplant this way is because that we want to keep the eggplant fibers intact. This will help when you bite into the actual eggplant when it's in the sandwich.
Okay.
If you kept it in a ring, then it would almost fall apart, or you would end up with the whole eggplant piece in your mouth.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Now, eggplant is very bitter. What are you gonna do to kind of neutralize that flavor? Any techniques?
What we're gonna do is after we cut this eggplant, we're gonna sweat it. So what that means is we're gonna place it on a napkin and we're gonna put salt over the top.
Okay.
We're just gonna let it sit for at least 30 minutes, and that is just gonna draw all the moisture and the bitterness out of the eggplant. Okay? That looks like about enough eggplant.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna have you take some. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut, first we're gonna just take the skin off.
Okay.
And then I want you to cut around. So first let's just take the skin off. You could keep the skin on if you wanted, but it might leave the eggplant a little bit bitter and a little bit more tough to chew. So it's better to just take the skin off, but totally up to you.
And you're still keeping the nutrients in the eggplant. You're not really getting rid of too much of it.
No, definitely keeping it.
That's
So
good.
eggplant is great. It has lots of nutrients with antioxidant activity, lots of vitamins, so it's always good for you.
Now, do you want all the skin or just a little bit of it?
As much as you can get off. If you get a little bit on there, totally fine. Just get some of it off.
Alright, you want to keep it on that pole for now?
Yeah. So what we're actually gonna do is I'm gonna have you keep it because we're gonna cut it.
Oh,
Again.
Right.
So just get as much as you can off. It doesn't have to be perfect. As long as we have some of that meat on there, that's good enough. So as you cut that last one, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start cutting the eggplant into little rectangles. And this will just help us be able to fit it into the pita after we cook it.
Okay.
And also help with it cooking a little bit faster. So just little rectangles, squares, that's good enough. You don't need too many pieces because not too many will fit in the sandwich anyway. Just like that. Let me help you. And that's it. Okay? So what I'm gonna have you do is just get some paper towel for me.
Yes.
And we're gonna start the sweating process. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just gonna lay out all my eggplant pieces on this
And the salt you said, right?
Yes, and we need salt. You can start sprinkling the eggplant with some salt. And again, this is just going to draw the moisture and the bitterness out of the eggplant.
Can we do both sides or just one side? Of the eggplant, just flip it over?
Flip it over for you.
Okay.
Just a little bit of salt. And if you don't have 30 minutes, at least 15 minutes to get the moisture out, that's good enough. So let's get started on our tomatoes. Perfect. Look how pretty they are. So nice and red.
You kind of don't want to take them off the vine.
I know,
but
we have to. There you go. We just need 2 tomatoes.
Okay.
And what I want you to do is just dice them up.
Okay.
So a good tip is when you're cutting tomatoes, you don't want to cut it from the skin side because the insides can burst, so you're actually cutting it from here.
Okay.
Big pieces, little pieces, whatever your preference, but I usually just like to dice them up. And you can actually put whatever vegetables you want in the sandwich, but traditionally it's tomatoes, parsley, cucumbers, and you can actually make something that's called an Israeli salad.
Okay.
We're not going to be doing that today, but it would just be taking these vegetables and putting a little lemon juice, salt, pepper, and oil, and just mixing that up, and that would be your salad. But we're just going to keep the components as they are and put it in our pita bread.
And it's typical foods that are typical components of a Israeli recipe, like traditional foods that are made there, you know, not to the area, grown, freshly grown there.
And there you go. So that's our tomatoes. Just roughly or finely chop them however you like, and we're done with that. So I'm just gonna have you, after you cut it, maybe we could just place it back on that plate.
Yes.
And I'll start with the cucumber.
Okay.
So we have a nice cucumber here. Probably don't need all of it. I'm just gonna cut it in half. I'm just gonna take as much of the skin off as we can. Again, it's your preference. If you don't want to take the skin off, you don't have to. And some people actually, what they do is they might actually salt the tomatoes. I don't know if you've heard of that.
And what does that do?
It actually does the same thing as this. It helps draw a little bit of the moisture out.
Okay.
We're not going to do that today because I like the taste of fresh tomatoes.
And tomatoes don't really have like a bitterness about them.
No.
It's more just extra moisture.
Here you go. That's your cucumber piece.
And you said into...
Just dice it. Same thing we did with the tomatoes.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just going to be sticking it in our sandwich. I think I gave you the bigger piece. And our last thing is our parsley. If you don't want to do parsley, I mean, you could always do lettuce, but parsley is traditionally used.
And you use a lot of these, or they smell beautiful?
They do. Let's just take a couple of them off. What we're gonna do is just chop them a little bit more.
And parsley is best kept fresh by putting in, you know, a cup like this with a little bit of water. They usually go bad really quickly if you just stick them in the fridge. And
Exactly.
so this is good.
So I'm just gonna dice them, just cut them roughly. And parsley is great because it's high in vitamin K, vitamin C, vitamin A. It's a good source of folate and iron, so it's good to get a little bit of parsley in your diet. And that's it. We don't need it to be great, just roughly chop it, because again, we're just sticking it all in our sandwich. Okay, so let's stick everything onto our plate. Look how pretty that looks, all the different colors.
All the colors. And that's the good thing about vegetables. You don't need to overly fry them or overly cook them. They're good as is. I mean, I know we are doing that with the eggplant just because it's raw, but to keep that freshness and the colors in it, it looks much better that way.
The eggplant just replaces any meat that you would use in a regular sandwich. So those are all our vegetables. Our next order of business is we're gonna be making hummus.
Okay.
So hummus is a very popular dish in Israel, and it's basically chickpeas with a bunch of different spices and some olive oil. So we're gonna be making that right now. Let's put this aside. Nancy, can you grab our food processor? Perfect. And as we can see already, our eggplant is starting to sweat.
Yes, you can see, you know, the little droplets.
By the time we're done with the hummus, our eggplant will be perfect.
And it won't dry it out or anything, right? Just just the bitterness.
Yeah, all that will come out.
Okay.
So what we want first, I'm gonna just grab a spoon and a measure. So we're gonna, can you hand me the eggplants? I mean the chickpeas, yes. You knew exactly what I wanted before I said it. So we're gonna take some. So what I have is about a can that's about 15 ounces of chickpeas. And you're gonna just put that in there. You don't have to put the whole thing, depending on how many people you're serving. You could put more or less. And you also wanna have some of that liquid. It's gonna help with blending it.
Good, yes.
I think that should be about good. Put a little bit of our liquid in there. Okay, so what I want you to get for me next, Nancy, is, can I have the cumin? Yes, perfect. And this just gives it that unique taste.
Okay.
Sometimes hummus can be made with tahini as well, and tahini is just ground sesames.
It's a little sour, right, tahini?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. You know what? Let me use this. So we need about a teaspoon of this.
Okay.
Okay, we have our handy dandy little measure here. Okay. So take about a teaspoon and put it in there. Okay. And what I want next is a little bit of salt. Thank you. So sometimes when you buy the chickpeas in the can, they can come with salt in it already. So we're just gonna put a little bit and then put it to taste afterwards.
Okay.
There you go. And then we have our clove of garlic. We're gonna stick that in there. I saw one time I put more than one clove of garlic and it was just too powerful.
Too much, yeah.
Yes, usually I love garlic, but if you put too much.
Garlic is one of those vegetables that it packs a lot of flavor and just that tiny bit of clove.
Yes.
And it brings it out really well, depending on how you use it. So
Yeah. So lemon. So we want to like put a little bit more moisture in this.
Okay.
So first let me roll it around. This
Yes.
helps get the juices out.
It's a good tip to get that juice out, right?
We're gonna need about a tablespoon, but I'm just gonna eyeball it. About a tablespoon of, looks like your lemon is a little dry. That's okay.
Oh, it's got it. We might need
A
the
little bit is coming. Yeah, I think we need the other one too.
Okay.
And if you want to keep the seeds from coming out, this one doesn't have seeds. But if there's seeds, you could just hold your hand over it and squeeze it and you can catch the seeds. Okay, and our last thing that we need is some olive oil.
Okay. Now how much olive oil are we using?
About a tablespoon of olive oil. I'm gonna drizzle a little bit in now. And then as it's blending, I'll put a little bit more in.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna blend this all together now. Okay. Put it in for a little bit, but it looks like it needs a little bit more liquid.
Okay.
We want it
Olive
smooth
oil.
and creamy. Yeah, so let's just take this out and put a little bit olive oil in. And you can always, I mean, I said a tablespoon, but just adjust it according to what you think, what you see.
And olive oil isn't like corn oil or vegetable oil. It's actually healthy for you. You don't, as long as you don't burn it and boil it too much or let it heat up too much, it's actually good for you. So this is good.
So it definitely helps in our recipe. All right. Let's take a look at it. Okay, let's just put a little bit in our bowl here.
Okay.
We're going to be using this at the very end.
All right.
Okay.
So we're just gonna let it rest, right?
Yes. Spoon some out. We don't need too much. Just keep some in here, and we're going to use that for later.
Okay.
And what we're going to do next, Ancy, is we're going to be taking care of our eggplant. Okay, so I'm going to get my skillet, and we'll be right back.
All right.
Okay.
So let's set up.
Okay, Ancy, so the next thing we're gonna do is prepare our eggplant.
Okay.
So remember, we put it out, put some salt, let it sweat. Okay, next, we're gonna take a paper towel. You have one for me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and we're just gonna pat it dry.
Okay.
Pat it dry of that mixture, of that moisture. It also fries better that way.
Yeah, with a lot of that moisture out. Eggplant typically like absorbs a lot of the flavor that you put into it, and so this is good.
Exactly. So we're frying it today, but you could also bake it.
Right.
I just fried it because it's how it's traditionally made for an Iraqi breakfast, so that's why we're frying it today.
Okay.
But other than that, you could bake it. So we wipe the moisture clean. Next thing we're gonna do is I'm just gonna turn the heat to about medium.
Okay.
And we're gonna put some oil in there. So this is vegetable oil.
Yes.
Like we said before, we're not gonna use olive oil. Not too much, but we're gonna pour just enough to saute the eggplant.
Not really a deep fry, more of like just a coating, right?
Yes. We could always put more if we need. So as you said before, the problem with eggplant is that it absorbs a lot of stuff. So it'll definitely absorb all the oil if we just put it in as it is.
Right.
So we're gonna do a different technique in that I'm gonna have you crack that egg.
Okay.
So crack that egg for me. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna brush the tops of our eggplant with the egg wash. And this will just be like a coat almost, and it'll prevent the eggplant from absorbing all that oil.
And so you want this kind of scrambled?
Yes, exactly.
Do you like brown eggs or white eggs better, do you think, for this dish?
It doesn't really matter, but my preference is brown eggs. But you could use whatever you want.
Okay.
Okay, that looks about good. So I'm just gonna take this egg wash and just brush the tops of these eggplant pieces.
Okay.
So why don't I tell you a little bit about Sabich sandwich as we coat these pieces of eggplant.
Of course, tell me.
So Sabich was actually brought by Iraqi Jews to Israel
Okay.
in the 1940s and 50s.
Gotcha.
So on the day of Sabbath, when no cooking is allowed, what would happen is that Iraqi Jews, what they would do is they would have their pre-made fried eggplant, boiled potatoes, and boiled eggs that they made the day before, and they would eat that on the day of Sabbath because they weren't allowed to cook.
They weren't allowed to cook, okay.
So it was a popular breakfast sandwich, and then in the 1950s or 60s, it became popular among street vendors.
Oh, okay.
So you could
Good.
buy it on any street. I'm gonna turn my eggplant over now.
Okay.
So you can buy it on any street, and it's the same today, except you can even find it at upscale restaurants.
So it's
Not
become a
popular.
staple
Exactly.
everywhere. And it's true, once you kind of prep it in this way, there's very little you have to do the day of, and you know, and you're not breaking Sabbath.
Exactly. And you don't even have to eat this for just breakfast. I mean,
Of
it
course.
has protein, it has vegetables, it has everything you could want to eat for lunch or dinner, even as a snack. Hopefully this will help our eggplant not get too soggy as we fry them. It'll help it get
Kind of like a protective coating,
exactly,
right?
crisp on the outside and soft on the inside. Okay, so we're about done.
You want it back at medium?
Yes.
Okay.
So let's test to see if our oil is ready. Okay, it's ready. So what I did is I just took a small piece of eggplant and I put it in there.
Okay.
So let's put it in there and be careful. Because of the eggplant, the oil might splatter a little bit.
So let's
just step back a little bit. We're gonna place
That beautiful sound is what you're looking
Exactly.
for.
I love that sound.
And the oil's still in there, so you can, you know, and we'll see it more when we take it out, but it doesn't look like it's taking up too much of that oil.
Yes, and we don't want to keep it in for too long. We don't want them to get crispy,
Right.
like completely, but a little bit on each side. You can turn it over to check. Oh, look at that. It's
Beautiful.
splattering, but that's okay. And it's perfectly brown. Not too brown, but just enough. Wow, look at that one.
Yeah. They're cooking fast.
Yeah. This will be done soon, and then we'll put our next batch in. You don't want to use plastic tongs. It might get a little bit melted.
Yes.
These are almost done. This side is perfectly brown. I'll give it about a minute, a little minute more. This side will get brown, and then we'll put our next batch in, and we'll be done. And you can make this for a big party if they're coming over your house.
Yep. And it's pre-made because obviously they do it the night before. So
Sweet. This is perfect. Yeah, I'm just gonna have you take a little bit of that oil off.
with
Okay. I'm gonna have you wipe some of that oil off, and I'm just gonna put one more batch in. And it cooks really fast. If you find that it's cooking too fast, just lower the heat. Get some good pieces here. Some people say that if you leave the eggplant seed in there, it's a little bit more bitter.
Right.
I mean, but it's your preference. I don't find it that way. I find that if we do the technique that we did with sweating the eggplant and then taking off the skin, that's usually good enough.
And like when you cook it, some of that bitterness will cook off as well. So that's good.
One more in there. I think our technique worked. Looks like the eggplant is firm.
Not too much
Not
oil
too
in there.
Yeah. So we have our eggplant done, and our next thing is just assembling the sandwich.
Okay.
Nancy, so are you ready to make our Sabich sandwich?
Definitely.
Okay, so here we have all our components laid out. We're gonna start with a recap of everything that we did, okay? So we have our plate of fried eggplant. Look how delicious and brown they are. Then we have our plate of vegetables.
Okay.
So we have our diced tomatoes, we have our cucumbers, and we have our chopped parsley. Beautiful, beautiful color combination.
Definitely.
We have our 2 boiled eggs, and that lovely hummus that we made earlier.
Yes.
Okay, and finally we have pita bread. So pita bread is just a type of bread, almost like naan, that they eat in Israel for almost every meal.
And we saw some of that in the appetizer earlier.
Oh, okay.
So that's good.
Okay, so we're tying it all in.
Tying it all in, yes.
So first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna take my knife and cut it. So I warmed this pita bread up in the microwave. If you don't have a microwave, you can just put it over a low heat. Just get it a little warm. That's the main purpose of this, because it's nice to have a nice warm bread to bite into. And it's a pocket.
Oh,
So that's convenient.
do they typically come as a pocket or?
You can buy it as pocket or just regular.
Okay.
Might give you a little trouble opening, but let's
Easy
open
to
all these.
stuff.
Exactly. So that's what makes it perfect for our Sabich sandwich, because we have all these components that we're just gonna stick in. It might get a little messy because
But what sandwich is not messy?
exactly.
That's what makes a good sandwich.
So we just need each half for each other. We'll assemble the first one first.
Okay.
So first we're gonna take our hummus. Can you hand me your hummus? Okay, and pass me the spoon. So we're gonna spoon some hummus into it. As much or as little as you like. I love hummus. I think it's delicious. So I'm gonna put a big tablespoon in there.
And it's very healthy for you.
Yes, definitely. And it's vegan. There's no animal products, no nothing. It's just chickpeas, spices, and oil. So you put that all over the bottom. Then I'm gonna have you put in some eggplant pieces into it.
Okay. Just how many should we put in there? Just enough
Let's
to cover
put,
the thing?
Yeah, maybe like 2 or 3. So here's what we have so far. Okay, it's gonna get prettier. We're gonna put some pretty vegetables in there. So first, let's put one of our bigger things, the egg.
Okay.
So I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna actually slice it in half. Better that way. Okay, and you could always use a whole egg, half an egg, whatever you'd prefer. I'm gonna cut it one more time. It's just easier to fit into the sandwich.
Definitely.
So we'll just stick it in there. Basically what we're doing is just stuffing the sandwich now.
Building it with all the, the meat, the non-meat items, the
Exactly.
eggplant, the vegetables.
I'm gonna have you spoon some tomatoes into here.
Okay. A little more, or?
We'll save some room for cucumbers. Okay, and a little bit of parsley on top. Okay, perfect. If you wanted, you could put a little bit of hummus or whatever, but we're gonna do the same thing with one more piece, because
We need to.
we need to. We're not sharing.
No.
It's too good to share. So there's one. We're gonna do the same exact thing in our next one. So tell me the steps, Nancy. What do you remember?
Hummus. Hummus first.
Perfect. Hummus to just coat the bottom. Nice, creamy, and silky, just like we made it.
Yes.
Okay. So then, next, Nancy. Perfect. You're a pro at this. Go right ahead.
This is so easy.
Anybody can make it. You
Yes.
can make it. That looks good. So we put in about 3 in there. Next, we have our egg, because it's a little bit bigger than the other 2.
Oh, yes.
Yes, we're gonna take our egg, cut that in half, and stick it right in there. Like I said, it might get a little messy. Don't be afraid to try it because you're afraid of a little mess. Next, our vegetables. Okay, cucumbers and parsley.
All those beautiful colors coming together.
Yes, and there you have it. Do we have a little paper towel?
Oh, yes we do.
Thank you. Thank you. And here we have our Sabich sandwich, ready to eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. It might take a little bit to get to the actual eggplant, but we have all the components, our eggplant, our egg, our vegetables, pita bread.
The
let's
hummus.
the hummus. Let's not forget the hummus. So let's take a bite.
Okay.
How is it?
It is good. I got a little bit of the egg. It's really good. It's very fresh.
Yeah, it's a very refreshing meal. And the eggplant just adds a nice little touch, a little crunch.
A little meaty, but not meat.
Exactly. So
you go.
perfect vegetarian meal that you can have any time of the day. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Nancy.
The hummus is good.
Do you like it?
Simple recipe too.
Easy to make. Anyone at home can make it. I encourage you all to make it. Thank you so much, Nancy, for
No, thank you, Shani. This is really good, and it's a good representation of what Israeli food is, the freshness, all the fresh vegetables, and and the history behind it. Eating this on the Sabbath, that's beautiful to know, and and to see that they use this like that. So thank you.
No problem. My
Okay.
pleasure.